saw a minivan at the gas station recently and had to do a double take and then a triple take and then another look when they weren't looking. Do you ever do that? Anyway, this minivan was basically a hoarder's home on wheels. The person was obviously living out of their van, and I don't fault them for that. I've lived out of vehicles in seasons of my life when I was guiding and mountaineering, and it was the hip thing to do for sure. And man, I have friends living now in amazing ways, van life. I mean, it's incredible stuff, and there's some super cool adventurous ways to do it. So I'm not judging that by any means. And heck, we lived out of an RV for almost 5 years, so we know life on wheels. But what was sobering was the fact that they were basically a hoarder. They hadn't covered up the windows, but things were stuffed over halfway up the windows all the way around this vehicle. You could almost not see the person inside. And I was so struck in that moment and so grateful that we were forced to be minimalists for a season of our lives. It was incredibly humbling at times and very difficult. Practicing minimalism was also really freeing. As I've detailed in other stories, we had a fire. It was a little over 5 years ago. It happened 3 days before Christmas. We lost basically everything we owned. And through a number of through a number of difficult decisions, that's what I'm trying to say, we made the choice to purchase land outside the town we were living at the time and purchase an RV and to live off-grid in our RV. We later ended up doing a fair bit of traveling in our RV, but for the most part, we lived off-grid in the RV on our land.
This is our sweet baby, just 4.5 months old, and the light of our life for sure. We've spent some time out here at our campground. I'm doing a little work right now, and it's a beautiful day. Again, so much warmer than Oregon, but we are just south of San Jose, Morgan Hill, a gorgeous little RV resort that's right in wine country, surrounded on all sides, I think, by vineyards, so pretty cool.
That season of our lives forced us to practice minimalism. You don't realize how quickly you can acquire things these days, how cheap things are. We couldn't be the minimalist that some people could be because we have 3 businesses, so we needed space for trailers, food trucks, and food carts, and my husband has a renovation business, and so the amount of tools and barnwood that we needed for that was extensive. But what it did was force us to practice intentional living. And living in the RV, we did have to practice minimalism. When you can only have so many pieces of silverware and room for plates and cups and just kitchen stuff and very limited amount of books, to my great distress. Those I did decide to save and put elsewhere because I am in love with books. Those are hard for me to purge. You know, living simply, how many clothes do you wear on a regular basis? How much closet space do you really need?
Nothing exciting here today except dirty laundry, big pile, gotta clean up the house, but this guy makes laundry fun. Who's doing laundry? Woo! Woo! Sherry! Sherry!
So we lived simply. We lived minimally. We learned to be intentional. We did end up having more space than just the RV. As I've shown in other videos, we decided to renovate a cargo container, and we had a little tiny home / guest house / office / studio that was beautiful that my husband created. And we had another small cargo container that we used like a shed and a place to lock our tools and things for our business. It had some extra space, so we did at different times rotate out our clothes seasonally. And so, you know, because there's a minimum amount that you can use in an RV, or minimal space that you can use, we did decide to have more clothes than we could fit in there, but we rotated them out seasonally and had some storage tubs. But it really provoked minimalism. What I found was how easy it is for us to gain weight in America. Gaining weight, accumulating things is easy. Keeping it off, having the discipline to purge, having the discipline to exercise takes work. I noticed on a weekly basis the amount of things that would come into our home, mail, gifts, things that other people gave to us, things you picked up, things that were free, things that you bought. There was this constant looking around, where are we going to put it? And there was no additional closets. There was no additional space. There wasn't other rooms to put things in and decide to deal with it later. You had to deal with it in the moment, or it began to take up your sitting space. It really impeded your living space. And so the truth is, living in an RV, being forced minimalists, made me particularly, because I cared more, I think, caring for our home in that way. My husband's the cook and the chef and does his part. But, I often did the cleanup, organizing, going through kids' clothes, doing homeschool stuff, and going through different products. I found I had to go through it on a weekly basis, and I got annoyed with it. I didn't like the work, and often complained, which my husband would probably attest to, more than I should have. But in being in a new season, living in our new home, I'm really aware that we want to continue practicing intentional living. We want a home for everything and to live beautifully but simply. I don't want sparse walls. I love plants. We could have another 20 of those and be happy with them. We love books. There's certain things that bring us joy and are useful and resources and make us money. Books are tools and education for me. My husband has tools. We need a certain amount of tools to keep our businesses operating and to be proficient and experts in our field. But we need to practice minimalism on a regular basis if we are going to live simply and beautifully. And the reason I say this is because not only is it hard to look at somebody who's hoarding everything and how dysfunctional it is, but the fact is, it's just noise. It's anxiety. Stuff around you building up is noise. It's just, it adds it's like a buzzing background noise into everything you're doing. And I learned early on in my life that if my space was not organized and clean, I had a really hard time being creative. I had a really hard time having a clear mind and thinking through those things. I've probably gotten much better at learning to be creative and functioning in difficult environments because we can't always wait for the perfect environment. So having that discipline is powerful. But if you can control your environment, if you have the resources and the time and the energy, invest in yourself, get rid of the background noise, and clean up your world. Give things away. Throw things away, burn things if you have to, but get rid of the noise so that you can live more simply, more beautifully, and more harmoniously. Because when there's harmony in your world, you're going to find that there's going to begin to be harmony in your finances and relationships and your health, and that you're going to have the time and energy to focus on other things. So if you have been watching this channel for a little while and not sure where to start maybe with a mini habit of just cleaning for 1 minute a day, processing or throwing 3 things out a day, or picking up 10 things and putting them away. But find a way to get rid of the noise in your life so you can start to be more creative and have the energy to invest in life in the more meaningful places, the more important things.